trucks are different. Tacoma is built for your life's adventures. Dependable day in and day out for weekend warriors and as a die-hard work truck. Tacomas also do better when it comes to fuel costs. Now's the time to buy right. Toyota trucks are different.
Inside PressBox is presented by Freedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. Go to Freedmont.com now for all of your mortgage needs. And welcome to Inside PressBox. I'm your host, Stan the Fan Charles. Well, if you enjoy the business of sports, you'll enjoy this week's offerings. We're all in on the world of local sports, their impact on our economy, and just learning a bit more about who the top movers and shakers are in that world. To help us discuss those topics are the Director of Sports Marketing for the state of Maryland, Terry Hazeltine. Terry will get us up to speed on the hot topics about events coming to our state. But first, we'll be joined by an old friend who at one time worked for the Baltimore Orioles in their marketing department. He worked under two very powerful men in MLB, Larry Lucchino in Baltimore and George Bush in Texas. He also worked under Ted Leonsis at AOL for close to 15 years. Upon leaving AOL 2 years ago, Marty has consulted to area businesses, taught sports marketing at Georgetown, and he's also now settled in for a hitch at PressBox as our sports business writer. This month, he created a ranking system for Maryland's power players in sports. It's entitled the Power 13. Marty, pleasure to have you on the show.
Glad to be back. Thanks for having me here, Stan.
I'm an admirer of yours from way back.
Oh, thank you very much.
And we put up on the screen the picture of that article. Mm-hmm. Tell us about what triggered this article. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, actually, what I took the two beltways, the Baltimore Beltway and the Washington Beltway, and I said they sort of represent a figure eight. There's about 66 miles, and I said, what's going on in there business, sports-wise? And, you know, we've got two professional football teams, baseball teams, et cetera. There's about 8 franchises. But we also have, you know, a major street race. We've got PGA golf. We've got tennis. We've got all the major things happening there. Preakness, exactly. And I really wanted to see who is behind that and who is responsible for us, A, having those, and B, the success that they were.
Well, you explained one thing to me by the 66 miles, because PressBox, while we're out there and we, you know, the internet, you're everywhere now, but, you know, we're primarily have been a Baltimore paper. We're trying to expand our borders, but awful lot of Washington representation in there. Should Baltimoreans be paranoid about that?
No, I don't think so. I think that the one criteria was you had to live in the state of Maryland to be on the list. So everybody on the list actually lives or resides in the state of Maryland, whether it's in Baltimore, surrounding suburbs, something like that. So it really represented a very powerful group in sports, not only domestically, but internationally as well, as we'll talk about.
All right. I don't want to go through all 13 just right in a row, but number one is Ted Leonsis.
Yeah.
For purposes of disclosure, we already announced you worked for Ted.
Sure.
What puts him on top of a Steve Bisciotti, a Kevin Plank, or Peter Angelos, who are the next three?
Well, the enterprise that Ted owns is only one of 3 in the U.S. where he has a NBA team, an NHL team, and owns the arena as well. The other 2 places are in New York and Denver, so it's really unique in that, and it gives him a tremendous amount of influence. He also his company owns the Patriot Center and then the Kettler Capitol Iceplex. In addition, as we talked in PressBox this month, he's launched a mobile digital sports network as well. And if that's not enough, he's also chairman of Groupon, a major corporation, but he's been an author and a filmmaker and a philanthropist. So, you know, to get this perfect score of 10, it wasn't just his impact within his own industry, but other things that he's done surrounding industry and philanthropy.
He gets that perfect score of 10. The next 3, which I mentioned, are Bisciotti, Plank, and Angelos, down from 9.8 to 9.4, I think it is.
Yeah.
Those numbers, they're not just arbitrary numbers that Marty Conway said. I think he's
they're not.
You know, how did you come up with these?
I set forth with some categories that included their own personal wealth, the success of their sports enterprise.
Explain why I'm not on it.
Exactly. Okay. A few of us are not on there. Yeah. But then their philanthropy, their impact in the community, their engagement. But then one important thing, and for many people on the list, this made a difference, the impact that they've had throughout sports, the ripple effect, if you will, of their work in the rest of the industry that has lasted, in some cases, 10, 20, or 25 years.
Let me ask one other question. Ron Shapiro is on the list. I think he comes in at number 6 or 7.
I think it's 7.
7.
Yep.
Why him over, say, I'm going to just throw out two names that popped in my head, John Moog or Alan Rifkin? You know, guys that are sort of behind the scenes, but do some power type of stuff.
Well, that's important. I mean, we started out with about 50 names, and we quickly got it to about 25 or 30, and then the work began. And the number where it really began to show a difference. I was in the top 50.
You
were absolutely in there.
Okay.
But after 13, you began to see this separation in terms of their influence. And one of the things about this is its power, and the way that we visibly see power is through influence in the community, right? And so specifically when you're talking about Ron, most people would know Ron from his days of representing Cal and Eddie and things like that. But he really changed the game for sports agents overall. They had a bad reputation at that point. And then Ron took that and he's built it into the Shapiro Negotiation Institute and other areas. He's an expert in dispute resolution. And believe me, from the people that I talk to, a lot of folks have him on speed dial for both their sports and their business enterprise. And when times get tough, he's somebody that they reach out to.
All right, folks can pick this article up in this month's PressBox, the July issue of PressBox, or go to PressBoxOnline.com. Two more names, Janet Marie Smith.
Yep.
It's good to see a woman on there, on the list. What has she done that resonates that high? We got about a minute.
So Janet was an important part of the development team that built Camden Yards, as we know, and that had a huge influence. There has not been a ballpark built in baseball since Camden Yards that those folks, city or club officials, didn't come through Baltimore and really either sit down with her or in some cases hire her as a consultant. The way that we view baseball now in this country, she's had a tremendous impact on that. So when you talk about the ripple effects of somebody like that, that's where she's very much behind the scenes in cases, but every place you go from Cleveland to Detroit and other places, her mark and how baseball is to be viewed is literally represented in those stadiums.
I'm going to save my next person for the next segment so we stay on time.
Sure.
When Terry Hazeltine comes in, he's the director of sports marketing. He's dealt with a lot of these people. We're going to talk to him a little bit more about this list.
Great.
All right? Marty Conway continues with us, this fascinating topic, and we'll be joined by someone who actually deals with some of these power players, or at least the organizations that most of them run. Terry Hazeltine joins in on the conversation after this.
Want a great t-shirt for the female sports fan in your life? Check out the Your Turn t-shirt, available now at yourturntshirt.com.